with 2 goals in the second leg semi-final. The academy graduates have done it.
One game went as planned, while the other, not so much. But only 2 teams remain standing, and we'll talk about all that and more on this semi-final leg 2 review show. Yeah, people, welcome to JPL Fan, and we are now down to the final 2 teams left standing, and it's deja vu. It's a repeat of last year's finals coming up. I will tell you how both teams got there once more as we go straight into the games. We're going to look at the first game of the night, which was the defending champion Mount Pleasant was taken on Waterhouse. Now, I stated in the preview show that Mount Pleasant and Tampa Whitmore went to have a selection headache when it comes to this semi-final. Again, when they have so many quality players, they can field at least 3 quality teams, is no surprise. The whole idea of who should start at number 9 was solved by starting the number 9. Daniel Green will start at the top in what looks like our traditional 4-3-3, with Duxley back again at the base of that midfield, and saw DeMar Phillips back in the team as an 8, and Romori Guthrie back in the team as another 8. But the other big news as well is that Kimoni Bailey kept his spot, and interestingly enough, he switched wings with Devontae Campbell to start the game. One last piece that Ladiel Richards was out and Jomai Tope was back in. As for Waterhouse, they have some selection headaches coming into this game as well. Javier Bryan, the main striker, was injured, but he managed to pass fitness tests and starts here. Shamar Booth and Andre Smith keep them places, and Andre Fletcher is now back in the team after sitting out leg 1. Some good change up in tactics from Whitmore here. He ditched that 4-1-4-1 to traditional 4-3-3, while Waterhouse, Andre Fletcher's a nice return, but let us see how it goes. So that's the game kicked off. I wouldn't call it necessarily nerves, but Mount Pleasant was absolutely sloppy on the ball. Some early sloppy touches, some early sloppy passes, and one of them eventually to not really a big chance, but the ball fell to Mitchell, who decided to take on a shot from roughly near 30 yards out, which put out some challenge to Shaquan Davis, but he comfortably gobbled it up. But that was just a prelude to what could happen next. Again, some sloppy balls in midfield saw a turnover. Mitchell got the ball in the middle of the park and slipped a pass into Javier Bryan, who found himself in the box and steadied himself to try curl a right-footed shot past Shaquan Davis, but it was a good save down to his left to keep the ball in safety. Now I know some stay-at-home coaches who say Javier Bryan should take it with his left, but to me that was the actual quality save that Shaquan Davis pulled off. It was a big chance for Waterhouse nonetheless, and Mount Pleasant after that finally got their heads together. They finally got a lot more on the ball, and they got their composure back after that. And a lot of that credit went to DeMar Phillips, who I thought started to command that midfield much more and kept possession well, and then start to get them passing game flowing. They were now looking much like the Mount Pleasant we have seen all season, as Waterhouse was now regressing further back and back to try and soak up the pressure. I did say that Whitmore was playing with 2 number 8s, and with Guthrie just as good on the ball, it allowed Phillips to now ghost in sometimes into the box. One good pass by Guthrie actually slipped through Phillips here on the left, and he took a quick snapshot that get past faster but hit the outside of the post. So this is a good sign that more players would get into them flow. They came again with some good nifty pass and attack. That's how they got some consecutive corners, and on those corners everybody was keeping an eye on Captain Fantastic, including the defenders, and because of that they did manage to keep him out twice. But some nervy close calls for that Waterhouse backline, who is now feeling the pressure. At this point, Duxley and Guthrie was definitely running that midfield, but what was also effective that Mount Pleasant was switching up their game plan. When the sharp passes weren't on, the ball was recycled back to Tope, who can now utilize those vertical long balls and when they went direct. It was causing much trouble, and a lot of debate is how Green would play in a central attacking role, and he actually did well. He's not necessarily the most traditional number 9, but he actually played the role to effect, as he was hustling up there and trying to hold the ball properly, as well as nodding on the ball. At this point, the Waterhouse team that was so compact in unit in the first leg was having trouble to find out what they should do. Should they pressure Tope to cut off those long balls, or should they sit back and try not to make any space thread through for Guthrie and Phillips? Eventually caught in 2 minds, and eventually the ball fell to Tope, who did a neat disguised pass and slipped through one in between Blair and his centre-back partner Matthews, and saw Devontae Campbell, who had the ball slightly behind him, But the fact that he had so much time on the ball, he was able to repair it and make a nice right-footed shot in the left-hand corner. Big goal for the young man, and no more players were one up, and it was deserved based on the run of play. It was tough on Blair and the rest of that Waterhouse back four, as they are now a lot closer and compact, but they were drawn out this time by the play and tactics, and they got caught out. So 1-0 at this point, more players was not stopping, they were still controlling possession. A direct ball went in the left-hand corner, no chance for Green to supposed to get the ball as Jamaican Brown had it all sewed up. But Green, doing all the dirty work he's been doing all game, was able to win the ball after bouncing Brown off it, was not able to pass it to Bailey, who was inside the box, who took a touch on his weaker right foot, but only able to make the shot straight at Foster. So again, more warning signs for Waterhouse as they were trying to figure out which attack and how the attack was coming, as the mix-up of short passes and long passes were having them in trouble. That was the last of the major action that happened in the first half, and the team went in with more players after that 1-0 lead. So Waterhouse were definitely trying to regroup. They are definitely being outplayed at this point, and they had to try and get with something in the second half quickly. I thought they would come out in the second half pressing as hard as they can to try win some turnovers and try to create the chances they create in the first part of the game, forcing more players to come for possession. But this time, more players was fully in their element, and it was not working. As I said before, once Waterhouse came out of the shell and tried to press the line, Topi had the ball and he could definitely just go over the top. So more players were definitely a better team in the second half. They had a next chance here where McCullough played a direct ball over into the box looking for Bailey, but he found Blair instead. But Blair had a slight moment of madness when he tried to chase the ball to his keeper, but he fell short, and Bailey had a chance on goal now, but ended up just poking over the bar. He was now playing on his now favoured right wing, and was still causing trouble. It was a much improved performance from Bailey, and it justified Whitmore keeping the faith in him. More players still had possession and were still probing for that second goal, and eventually came, and it came from the star Academy graduate. Again, another direct ball looking for Green, actually draw out Simpson out of that centre back position, and Green now seeing an overlapping Campbell was able to slip the ball to him. But you would think that Jamaican Brown, who handled Campbell on that wing so great all of the first leg, would have it under control, but in a blink of an eye, Campbell was past him. It was not bearing on goal by the vacant space left by the centre back. I was coming in at the angle, and while the yellow shirts were trying to convene in hope to save the goal, it was too late as Campbell was able to slip a pass at the near post at the acute angle, past Foster in the back of the goal. Another big match goal for Campbell, and he was definitely the difference maker in this one, and Waterhouse was not reeling at this point. Gale looked like a lost figure at the sideline as him and most of the Waterhouse fans and players were just wondering what to do next. More players were definitely not relaxed, they were just simply comfortable at this point. I felt like nothing could go wrong for the champions, unless they have a rush of blood to the head, and it definitely came in a disappointing moment. The Waterhouse tried to find their number 9 striker on the right wing, and with him facing away from goal with nowhere to go, Dyer came in strong and pushed him into the advertisement boards. Brian was definitely upset with such a challenge, but as a centre back myself, I have no problem with Dwyer basically telling the big number 9 that, yo, me the boss says so, I'm about still. No problem with that. But for him to try and do it again so quickly after coming into the eye of the referee was just pure madness. Literally a minute later, the Brian received the ball in the middle of the field once more, him facing away from goal once more. Dyer once again came in strongly through the back of the player and hit him to the ground. Now, of course, the referee who turned a blind eye to the first one would not make a second one as she gave him a yellow card. But Dwyer was quite upset, too upset in fact, and he put his hands on the female referee Arnett Hamilton, and credit to her, she didn't hesitate to give him the red card and send him to the showers. It was a moment of absolute madness by Dwyer. His team was absolutely comfortable at this point, and not only they let Waterhouse back into the game at this point, he also will miss the final. So Dwyer left with his marching orders, and now Whitmore, who could be kicking back with his feet up and a cigar in hand, had to now jump up and now think of a contingency plan. When Byger was on the field, he had to regress to a left midfield, and they now set up with a bank of 4-4-1. James also replaces Bailey as they were hoping to still be of some threat on the counter. But it did give life and hope for Waterhouse. They would now say there's a chance to come back in the game. The only problem is like it took them a while to realize that they have a man advantage. There was no real urgency for them to get the ball going up the field. They were still lingering with their passes, and Waterhouse, despite being a man known, still was looking slightly threatening, especially with Natalia James looking dangerous on the other way. It took basically near to the last 10 minutes for Water was starting to finally crack up some pressure, and they were now teeing up some balls from the left and right hand side. One long ball actually reached to the back post and saw Fletcher and Blair got in some kind of mix-up, but it actually worked in their favour as Blair wiggled away from Cummins and was able to play with a nice 1-2 that helped saw the ball end up behind the Mount Pleasant backline onto Fletcher's feet, and with only Shaquan Davis to beat to give them a goal back, Shaquan Davis pulled off a great save to deny the Waterhouse number 15. It was a big save for Shaquan Davis, who actually was having a decent game and playoffs overall and showed the quality he has. But Waterhouse wasn't done. They were keep coming again in waves and waves of attack at this point. They definitely was feeling desperate or confident, and they were trying to get some chances in. Mount Pleasant was trying their best to keep a composed unit, but eventually the dam break when the ball came over to Jaheim Brown on the right side. I was able to place an accurate square into that 6-yard box, and while all the main players, Javier, Brian, Fletcher, and everybody was marked up, nobody expected Simpson to be there, who crushed the party and headed the ball into the goal. So it was 2-1 at this point, but with only 2 to 3 minutes left, was it too little too late? And yes, it was. That goal came too late, as they didn't have so much chances after that, and the whistle blew by Arnett Hamilton, and that was a Mount Pleasant victory in the semi-final. 3-2 aggregate, and they will now move on to the final once more. But for Waterhouse, it was a good try, but it was just not enough. Anyway, I'm going to move on to the stats to show you just how this game played out in numbers. Yes, in overall shots, Mount Pleasant peaked it. They had 13 total shots compared to Waterhouse 10. And shots on goal, it was actually even at the end of the day. 6 by Mount Pleasant, 6 by Waterhouse. 5 corners for Waterhouse, 4 to Mount Pleasant, 1 yellow card apiece, and of course 1 daft red card to Dyer. So ultimately, yeah, not a bad effort by Waterhouse, but honestly, no shame in this losing to what was just a better team. It was no great tactical mishap I felt by Waterhouse. They just could not match that squad of Mount Pleasant. While Whitmore deserved all the praise for the tactical switches, Topi's vertical passes helped switch things up and kept the Waterhouse backline confused, and Devontae Campbell was definitely the man of the match. So a big win was gained for the defending champions. They returned to a stage they're so familiar with, but who will they face next? Well, we're going to move on to the second semi-final, and trust me, it was must-watch TV. Yes, as I stated, we're moving on to the second semi-final. It will be Cavalier hoping to return to that stage where Mount Pleasant is like last year, but Arnett stands in them way. In terms of the lineups, the big talking point for Arnett, will they switch back to a 4-3-3, especially since Reedy was out? Will Kyle Dixon play on the wing or through the middle? What will they do? Well, Gilbert was stubborn as a mule actually. He stuck to that 4-4-2 diamond and saw Arboin joining Dixon in the front 2 pairing. But was also interesting that Kelsey also came into that team and was ended up playing on that right midfield. Martin keep his spot at the base, Shepard the most advanced forward, and Jaheim Thomas was on the left. But the other big change actually came at the back. The wrong fullback Wizard was out, and the more experienced DeAndre Cunningham was in. Another big news as well is that Parker Blocks, who we thought would be missing his game to the hamstring injury, was fit enough to make the bench. As for Cavalier, with of speed, as I told you in the previous show, don't be surprised that he switched things up and switched to a 4-3-3. And that's what he did, at least on paper, as he started both Stein, Calvin, Atkinson and Chanel Thomas up front. So he was definitely going for the juggler early. But what was also surprising is that Cadet was not replaced by Adrian Reed Jr., but instead was partnered with him in the midfield. So that was a major surprise as well. So that saw Ainsworth back to the bench, and now what will be a usual back 4, saw Leng, Irvin, King and Ming back there. Bartlett, as expected, was in goal. As I stated for Cavalier, it was a 4-3-3 on paper, but in practice, it actually looked more like a 4-2-3-1. And where we thought that Atkinson would play right behind the striker, he was more set up on the left-hand side, and Chanel Thomas was more behind Stein. But before the game could kick off, we had to talk about what was an absolutely embarrassing moment for the league. So the kickoff was actually delayed by roughly 10 minutes as both teams were just parked at the pitch, and the referee seemed to be looking at the ball. And at this point, we're just thinking the ball quality was just not up to snuff. But actually, we saw a big argument that happened at the sidelines that involved the PFGL CEO Owen Hill, the match commissioner, the match referee, as well as both management of Cavalier and Arnett. At this point, we have no idea what the argument was, but we later found out that before it kicked off, the Cavalier players absolutely refused to play with the Adidas ball that was provided by Arnett. So that was a big uproar, Arnett was saying what was the issue, but Cavalier and Rule of Speed were stating that they're the home team and they should play with their ball. They brought, of course, a different type of ball, a red and white Nike, and at this point, as a casual fan, you're probably wondering what's the big deal. But if you played football, sometimes you know that if you kick a ball for so long in training or in warm-up and you switch it, it can feel a bit different. So that was a big issue, but Cavalier was not changing. They were definitely digging their heels, saying they must have it, and they eventually got their wish. So the game was finally able to kick off. The fans were in an uproar at this point, and they got even more upset as early in the game, Slappy missed up in the back by Cavalier. So Irvine got the ball and was running into the penalty box, but was taken out by Irvin. From the naked eye, it looked like he was in the box. But referee Nichols said that was just outside the box, and the players and the fans could not believe it. The junglists were definitely upset at this point, but looking back on the TV replay, it was an absolute brilliant call. It was just right out. Willis, as usual, stepped up to take the free kick, but it wasn't much threatening. But if you thought the fans were upset about that call, you have seen nothing yet. From the couple minutes after that, the ball was played on the left-hand side. Some good movements by Busy Atkinson, saw him getting away. Then he held up the ball looking for support. Chanel Thomas came for that support. He gave him the ball. Then Thomas, who now in no man's land, slowed up a bit looking for support as well. But out of nowhere, Shane Watson came and have an absolutely clumsy tackle and knocked the player over. It know he looked auspicious in real time, but the referee blew the whistle. And then, not just blow the whistle for a foul, he pointed to the spot. Now the fans were absolutely bemused, the defenders were bemused, but again on replay, it was just in, and it was another brilliant call, I felt, by Nichols once more. But the fans didn't think so. At this point, we saw one of the ugliest parts of football, one we thought we got rid of in the yesteryear, as the fans in our corner we thought was mostly Arnett Garner's fans, started to throw some bottles onto the field. It didn't look that serious at first. There were mostly just some classic bottles being thrown, but they were clearly showing their disgust. But the referee did the right thing. He took the safety of the players, everybody involved, into question. He halted the game, and a good 10 minutes we was no play. Credit to the Arnett Guns players, even though they were upset about the call, they went over to that corner and was trying to plead to their fans, telling them to keep their cool. Eventually they did, and the game got on the way for the penalty to be taken. But what was so interesting is that Atkinson is normally the penalty taker, but we saw Richard came with the ball in his hand. He placed it on the spot and walked up straight to Edwards and looked him dead in the eye. So it was definitely some mind games going on here, and it was definitely entertaining. Credit to Edwards, he looked him back in the eye without no fear, and King slowly turned back and went back for the ball at the top of the spot and took it up and was walking away from the spot before handing it over to Busy. Now Busy was the one that placed it on the spot, and this was clearly out of the Rule of Speed Mind Games playbook, and before he coolly slotted home to give Cavalier a 1-0 lead. Big goal again in a big time, and it was deserved for Atkinson based on just his performance in that first leg. Arnett now still bemused and still upset, tried to get things going again, but there were some turnovers after the pressing again by Atkinson and the rest of his Cavalier players, led to the ball in the edge of his possession, who tries to fling the ball to the left wing, looking for Busy once more, and him and Willis was going for it, and while Willis looked like he comfortably won the ball, all of a sudden he saw Atkinson on the ground holding his face. So you're saying, alright, come together, but not much into that one. But there go referee Nichols once more running to Willis, brandishing a yellow card. Willis could not believe it. Most of the Arnett fans could not believe it, and they would not take it lying on this time. Now some more bottles were coming onto the field, and this time there weren't no harmless plastic bottles. They were now throwing magnum bottles at other type of glass bottles. Even at one time the pitchers picked up a full 2-liter Ray Nephew rum bottle was flown onto the pitch, which could have easily left some real damage on one of the players or staff. Ray Nephew is a main sponsor of the league, but even them wouldn't want such kind of advertisement. So the players were now again taken off the field. The referee has now stopped the game, and the Arnett fans were definitely the ones in control at this point. More things were being thrown, and even though the popular Captain Freeman really was trying to keep them calm once more, they were not having it. They were just really upset with the 3 calls that happened against them. Yeah, they were controversial, but the first 2 I thought were definitely on spot. As for the yellow card, Speed revealed later on that he should have been a red actually, as he thought that Willis used his elbow and hit Atkinson in the face. The game eventually got on at this point. Cavalier now were the ones in control. The usual pressing and direct game was in full control of Arnett, who could not get the hold of the ball, and eventually when they do have the hold of the ball, those 4 midfielders again look lost in this formation. Karim Dixon barely get much of the ball. He was trying to provide width by going far on the left or far on the right, but once he had it in possession, he wasn't getting much help. But while on the other side, Cavalier were definitely looking for their second. Stein had the ball in the left-hand corner, and after some 1-2, saw he received the ball back inside the box this time by a good sliding tackle facing his own goal by Shepherd. Saw the ball roll all the way towards his goal, all the way towards his own goal, and land at the feet of Jamal Calvin, who engineered a back heel to try to get it past Edwards. But it was a brilliant reaction save by Edwards, who got down quickly and got it out for a corner. It was a brilliant stop by the keeper to get down that quickly at point-blank range. From the ensuing corner, it seemed like Calvin get the header on target once more, and it was once again matched by a brilliant save by Edwards, who tipped it over the bar. Edwards was definitely keeping his team in it at this moment, as Arnett was looking lost. But after that, they got a little bit spell of attacking possession, where Karim Dixon was tired of not receiving the ball enough and decided to take matters in his own hands by dropping deep in midfield to receive the ball. He was now trying to dictate the play from there. Every time he received the ball, he was either making some good passes or trying to run at the back line, but he wasn't getting necessarily as much help as he would want, but he was still trying to conjure up something. But Cavalier, behind that double pivot of Cadet and Adrian Reed, but was able to repel him from entering their box. This forced some wayward shots from far in anger by the Arnett players. At this point, the game was drifting into halftime, with Cavalier looking very comfortable, and we were thinking, that's it for the goals this half. But then Route 1 football kicked in. Barclay took a simple goal kick, looking long for Stein, who got a knockdown and saw the ball land to Adrian Reed Jr. No, for us that all play football, when you see the ball lobbing so neatly like that, coming to you on the volley, the dream shot of taking one off the foot and cracking it towards goal is what we are fantasize about. But fantasy turned reality for the young baller, as a good volley saw the ball dip and swerve and beat the diving Edwards into the back of the net. A good volley that saw one of the goals of the season land into the back of the net. A big man goal for the young man, and he came at the right time, as it was right before the first half. You think that would be what would kill any momentum Arnett had going into the second half. But they were given a lifeline. Once again, right before the whistle blew for the second half, Shepherd, who was basically invisible before this point, got the ball just outside the box, and you look for Karim Dixon, who had one of the rare moments he was inside the box, tried to chase it down with his back towards goal, but he saw Irving crashing into him. Like a weak knee, he buckled and he fell to the floor, and when the majority of the people thought it wasn't much into it, the whistle blew. Nichols once again with a controversial call. This time it was in favor of the Arnett faithful, and they got the penalty. Some would say it was soft, while some would say it was actually experienced play by Dixon who to draw the penalty. It was clumsy by Irving really, and sometimes you to tell your defenders don't give the referee any option to give it against you. So Willis, who was basically the dead ball specialist, stood up and he comfortably slotted home to give Arnett a lifeline entering the break, 2-1. So disappointing by Cavalier, all the hard work was undone by that last goal, but they're still the masters of keeping that one goal lead. Now into the second half, Arnett was trying to get their play up for it. They was trying to go for the second goal, but the busier of the two teams was still looking like Cavalier. Atkinson was still the main man. He was still creating chances, and even though they weren't clear cut, they were still the ones in favor, probably getting a third. But finally, Gilbert realized this 4-4-2 was simply not working, and he rang the changes. He sent for Fairman Reed, who came in to give a spark to the faithfuls, as well as super sub Shea Smith was now into the game. But where we thought Shea Smith would be placed, it was not where we end up. The formation switched to 4-3-3, Dixon went to the left, Arby was now out right, Fairman Reed through the middle, but Shea Smith, where irrespective where he would go, was actually playing in midfield. So some weird tactical changes I felt by Gilbert, but I did like that they were switched to 4-3-3, as now the remaining midfielders, as Shepherd and Martin, look way more comfortably in this design. Shepherd was not getting more on the ball, and they were now coming more at the Cavalier back line. Reed himself now, who is much better holding up the ball in the middle of the box, was able to post up and get a swivel and a shot at goal that caused some trouble for Cavalier. They were now coming in waves, and this is why Wizards were now into the game, replacing Cunningham to give him some license to go forward, and indeed he was trying to utilize it as they came forward again. Another ball into the box, it was repelled, but found a shrieking Reed, who did a scissor kick to try and launch one in the back of the net. He only find the side netting, however, but with signs of life by Arnett. Now at this point, Rudolph Speed makes some changes of his own. Stein was out, and now Calvin, who was playing on the right wing the entire time and looked uncomfortable doing so, was now in his favoured centre forward role. he also plays busy acting more in the midfield as well as he looked for that fatal counter. And eventually it came. Route 1 was the fatal method as a ball was launched by Barclay from a goal kick and he landed on the head of Busy Akits who flicked it on. Now saw Calvin with a gaping hole in defense and running at the goal and out of the corner of his eye. He saw it was out of the box and was able to poke it past him. 3-1, and that was of course the fatal blow to get rid of Arnett Guns once and for all. Calvin's 16th of the season, and what a massive season he had, and he's now got his team into the final. So at this point, Arnett was dead and buried, but before the final whistle could happen, the Arnett fans had one more say into this game. They again hold up the game this time, but not just with bottles. There were actually flares thrown onto the field. Firecrackers was now also being thrown, and the game was at whole once more. Absolutely disgraceful scenes were happening once more, again by the fans at this point, as they also made a mass exodus. So the game eventually got on again after the likes of Russell and Hampton came into the game, but it didn't make much happening. Yeah, Hampton got one shot off that could have ended in the back of the net, but it didn't matter. The whistle finally came, and Cavalier, at the end of all that drama, was into the final to meet the defending champions once more. Once more, the game ended 3-1. So what was the stats like after all of that? So Cavalier actually had 16 total shots and actually was outshot by Arnett 17, and majority of those came after the switch to 4-3-3 and Fabian Reed coming into the game as they were pressing on for get back equalizer towards the end. 5 goals on target for Cavalier, 4 for Arnett Guns, 8 corners for Cavalier, they were deadly on those set pieces, 5 for Arnett as well. 4 yellow cards for Cavalier, 1 to Arnett. So yeah, it wasn't the best advertisement for the league as well as the fans of Arnett or the Arnett team or Cavalier or anybody. Nobody could really feel well how they were stopped so much times because of crowd trouble. But for Rudolph Swede, he should be delighted as his young charges got them in another final. That would be for a 4th in a calendar year, and he'll be hoping to finally win one of those. As for Arnett, good try. It's a good first season under Gilbert, and they will come to try again. Anyway, once more, that's his Cavalier winning this one 3-1 over Arnett Guns. So yeah, people, that's all I got for this review show. It's a bit longer than normal. Again, the final is set and it's a repeat of last year, as I predicted. So all to play for come Sunday at the Super Finals, and we'll be back on Friday to preview it all. But for now, that's all we got here at the review show. Again, thanks for watching, and if you're new here, please like, subscribe and share, as we hope to keep this going. But for anything else on the Jamaican Premier League, you're already in the right place. JPL fan, YouTube, big up on yourself.